Hey, everybody, this is Patty. Welcome to the witching hour, the hour of the day, whenever you tune in, that the veil is thin and magic happens. I have special magic for you today. He is a dear friend. He is so magical. He is a paranormal arts mentor and shadow worker, Kaedrich Olsen. Welcome back to the show, Kaedrich.
Hey, Patty, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me again. I always love our
Oh,
conversations.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I've been knowing this because I follow you on social media. You've really expanded in your work and your teachings and things, and you're doing along with the shadow work and the men's studies, a lot of crossing over work and afterlife work. I would love to talk about that because we haven't talked about that. So where did all this come from? How are you working? What are you doing?
It's a great question. In working through life, we all wonder what our purpose is, and we try out different paths. We try various things. Sometimes they fall apart. Things don't work out. Synchronicities get out of alignment. But then when we get on path and we start doing the right thing that is in tune with our purpose, our reason for being here, synchronicities fall into place. Well, I've had the same trials and errors and ups and downs and, following the fool's path to figure out who I am and what I'm doing in this world. And it's been very clearly stated multiple times. My purpose in this life is a teacher of the esoteric, a teacher of the metaphysical, the paranormal, all of those sorts of things. So I have a lot to teach. It's just crazy how much there is to teach. And it's like I've always described it as a big barrel of wine, and I've got a tap on it. And every now and then I can open up that tap and fill up and start to distribute, but there's always so much more. And so, literally, one of the things I talk about is how I was literally born into the paranormal. My mom's OBGYN was Dr. Robert Bradley, who held seances in his house. He wrote a book with his wife about their paranormal experiences. I grew up in a house that was haunted. I went to a spiritualist church that had seances in the basement, and trance mediumship was part of the services. So, literally, I was born into this. I grew up speaking to spirits. I grew up recognizing that the paranormal is a normal part of our world. And I just kind of ignored that for a little while. I went on the path of Norse, teaching the Norse stuff, teaching runes, the whole Viking mysticism sort of thing. But being pulled back into the paranormal is like kind of being pulled back into teaching my basic skill set, things that I thought was normal and natural. And so little by little, I'm getting out pieces and parts of my experience, the things that I've learned, the things I've been taught, not from books, but from direct hands on experiences and teachings from the whispers, my guides. And I'm starting to share that with people more and more as I keep developing more and more programs.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell us a little bit. You have a new program, right? An afterlife course itself.
Mhm.
So yeah, without giving away the course because we want people to take it. So what do you talk about? What is your thoughts on afterlife? Because it's so unknown.
Several years ago, when I was a little kid, I don't even remember it, but my mom told me that I told her that one of the things I'm supposed to do in this life was to help people die. So I thought for a while that meant maybe mortuary science, maybe that meant psychopomp work or death doula. But working with the Norse goddess Hel, she's the goddess of the underworld. She's the goddess who takes care of people who have died, lost souls, people who are having a tough time transitioning. And so this is the North concept. And it's interesting that her name is Hel, spelled Hel with one L, as opposed to the Christian Hell. The Norse concept of hell, Helheim, is not an afterlife of destruction or torment or sorrow or suffering. It's about releasing, it's about healing, because the word hell is related to the Old Norse words for healing and wholeness and well being. And so the afterlife is a way to transition into that state of wholeness and well being. It's a place to get that healing. And I realized over the years, it wasn't about the moment of death, it was about helping people learn to live, helping people to understand who they were at the authentic level, helping people to do their shadow work to clear away the crud, the attachments, the distorted energies, any of the things that is preventing them from living authentically. And one of the things that Hell told me it many years ago is that so many people are crossing over after death with absolutely no clue what's going on. It's very difficult to transition because either they don't believe in the afterlife and they're vehemently opposed to such a thing, or they have such strict rules of what the afterlife has to be like, a book of judgment. There's got to be somebody there condemning people. And so many people are afraid of crossing over because they can look back at their life and they go, oh, look at the mistake I made. Look at the people I hurt. Look at those things I've done. I know I'm going to burn in hell. I don't want to go. So they're fighting to get over there, not realizing the healing that comes, not realizing the wholeness and the help that is actually over there to help them cross over. And so that is the next step of my work, is helping people to understand that when you learn to connect with the afterlife, when you learn to connect with the spirit world, it makes that transition so much easier when the time comes, but it also helps you live your life so much better now. Look at all the people who've had near death experiences, and they share what is in common with those near death experiences. The tunnel with a light at the end of it, loved ones that are there. Sure, some people have had some scary experiences that they recall. Yeah. But really, what we need to do is, all of these near death experiences, what they've noticed is how much their life is improved. Their psychic abilities kick on. They're no longer afraid of death now because they know that consciousness continues after the moment the body dies, that there is still an existence after there. And so learning to transition to that helps that everywhere. But one of the coolest things that comes of working with the spirit world in the afterlife is reconnecting with loved ones, because you
Mhm.
can heal wounds on both sides of the veil. And when people can connect to loved ones and rebuild that connection, they're no longer afraid of death. They're no longer making mistakes. They're no longer afraid of moving forward with things because they realize, no, consciousness, my life is important. And so this whole afterlife experience is really about learning how to live and being able to make that transition when the time comes without difficulty.
I think that's beautiful. So you're working with it now living, and how to communicate with the other side and how to deal with their, is it like inner work, how to deal with their own when they get to the crossing, like be prepared for it?
Yes, exactly. In the course, I will give you a few techniques to learn how to actually explore. I was originally going to call it navigating the spirit world, but I was toying around with some different ideas. But that's the basic premise, is to learn how to navigate the spirit world, because over there, things don't move like we do over here. The way I kind of relay that is, think of an infant. When an infant is born into this world, they have to learn how to eat, they have to learn how to walk, how to talk, how to function in the physical world. And that's sort of a challenge, but the brain is designed to make that easier because children have a higher degree of neuroplasticity. They can learn things better and retain things better than adults do. Well, when you get to the other side, it's the same sort of thing. You need to learn now how to move, how to communicate. And it's a very different world over there. Things don't move the same way as they do over here. And so it's a learning process. But imagine being able to learn how to function in the spirit world now when you're alive. Imagine being able to learn how spirits really communicate now while you're still alive. So when the inevitable finally catches up to you and the body no longer functions, you get over to the other side and you're like, oh, I got this. No problem.
I took a class. I like it.
Exactly. You took the
Wait,
class, you
Kaedrich
had the
told me what to
experiences.
do.
And
I love that actually. So you think we have the consciousness to remember that? Because we know we life to life, most of us don't remember our last lives and wish we really work at it and do past life. So you think it's like, okay, if I, get hit by a bus tomorrow, I won't get hit by a bus tomorrow. I whatever information I would remember.
yeah, actually, because it's one of the cool things is I've got like 10 rules of interacting with the paranormal. And one of the rules is the more you interact with the paranormal, the safer it gets. The reason being is you dispel all of the fear-based narratives that you've been told. You dispel all of the stuff that you've seen in the movies and the TV shows. You dispel all of the negativity that surrounds it, and you experience the paranormal for what it really is. And you go, oh. And so you're no longer creating something negative, something bad. And it's the same way. The more you get to the other side, the more you explore over there, the more you can create your own space. And I teach that in the course, how to create your own astral temple, how to create your own space in the afterlife. And the more you do that, the more you just it's a part of you. So when the time comes, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, you're like, "Oh, damn. Okay,
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
go over
yeah,
here."
exactly. It's supposed to be great over there. Most of those people, like you say, that do the NDEs or they cross over and come back, most of them didn't want to come back. They seem to be very happy about it, and the majority of people who therefore write about it. But you are right. Since I have been communicating since I was a little kid before I knew what it was, it's never been scary or dark to me. It's just part of life. So I can get how that would really help. I think that's fascinating. So what are now I know both of us are very much in the seance world. We both do seances. We're both known for that. And we've both had people who are stuck there or confused along the way. You more so than I, but I think what you mentioned before, you because they're coming to you because oh wait, there's Kaedrich. So what is something that how do you do that? How do you deal with that? Or what do you suggest to people? Or why do people get stuck?
People get stuck because they don't know that they're dead. It's a
Yes.
really strange thing. I'll tell you a story of it. When I was doing a private seance, a man walked into the room, spirit man, he didn't have a physical body. He walked in the room and he was confused. He's like, "What's going on? Why am I here? Where is everybody?" And we just had a conversation. That's all we do is we just talk because it's just like coming up across somebody on the street that may have some sort of amnesia. You're not going to like push them away. Say, "Oh, get away from." I guess some people will. They get freaked out by it, but our compassion kicks in and we'll just have a conversation. "Hey, what are you doing? Where are you? What's going on?" We talked back and forth, and he was on a motorcycle and got into a motorcycle wreck. And it was so quick and so sudden. And he really didn't have that much of a belief in the afterlife. So he was just like, well, when the emergency responders showed up, they took care of some guy and then they all left. And I'm just standing there by the side of the road going, "Hey." And since then, I've been trying to talk to somebody and nobody's paying attention. This is the first time somebody's even said something to me. And so
Wow.
I just told him, "Look over your left shoulder. See the light there? See the people there? Why don't you go into that light?" And then the way I can describe when a spirit leaves the room through a portal like that, when they go through the tunnel, is if you've ever been in a room where somebody slams the door and then the air pressure just kind of bounces like that. That's what it feels like to me when a spirit goes through that portal to the other side. It's like the energy in the room just bounces, and I'm like, and then I get the goosebump rush, just like I'm getting one right now.
I am
Or-
too, I am too, and I've experienced that same thing. I get that thing, and if we're at a seance table, whatever, and we help that person or help direct that person as much as we can, you everybody feels it, whether they're the medium in the group or whatever, everybody feels it. I like your explanation like a depth story. It's like, "Now, it's gone. It hits you." I love that. I
so yeah, all we have to do is just have a conversation. Just remember they're a person. It goes back to what I call the compassion shift, because we've been trained by the media and by the pulpit pounders that spirits are just demons trying to steal our soul or to hurt us. And they've been training us to be afraid of the paranormal. So we have this attitude that when something goes wonky in the house, something moves, we get that creep out feeling. Our immediate response is like, "Oh my God, what are you going to do to me?"
yeah.
But if you could take a breath, just take a breath, recognize that you're having that moment of fear, and that's okay. That's okay because I would get freaked out if somebody just walked in the house. I still kind of startle a little bit when I see an apparition. It's like, "Oh, what was that?"
Yeah, me too.
But you take that deep breath, you're like, "Oh," and then you shift into, "How can I help you?" So you move away from, "Oh my God, what are you going to do to me?" to like, "Oh, do you need help? How can I help you?" And the moment you do that, you shift the energy, you change the energy. Even if it is a negative entity in the house trying to do something wonky to you, that moment of compassion shift pushes it away. And if it is somebody lost, scared, afraid, needs help, or even if it's just a loved one popping in to say hi, that compassion shift builds that connection. And now you can start really doing some healing work.
Endless. So if somebody is new to this, hearing this like from the first time, and they're like, what other than take your course, which they should do, what are some things that we can change right now in our day to day actions or perceptions? Or like you said, do you have these rules along the way? What are a couple of those that people can go, oh, I could incorporate that?
Learn to listen to the quiet whispers in your mind, because we're so used to our own thoughts being loud and worded and just being there that we don't realize that a paranormal experience can be so subtle. We think it's going to be like somebody banging on the wall, the disembodied voice yelling, "Get out." We think it'll be a tap on the shoulder or the apparition. But what if it's just that moment where you're like, "Oh, yeah, I remember grandma. Wow, she was really cool. Oh, she felt so great to be around." And you have that moment of heartwarming feeling. Well, let's just say, "Hey, grandma, how you doing?" Because that's her in the room reaching out to you saying, "Hey, I'm here." It's not a demon trying to mess with you. It's really grandma. And realize she might not come into your thoughts. It might not be like a worded communication. I've had this with clients. This is one of the biggest hurdles that they have getting over is they want the communication to be like we're having here.
Yeah.
They want direct, linear, worded
Open,
communication.
yeah.
But then they'll tell me, no, it's just like when grandma was there, I had like this knowing. It's like she was like I just knew something and I could feel it, but I can't really put words to it. Pay attention
Yeah.
to more moments like that, because that's when spirits are communicating to you. It could be a loved one. It could be a guide trying to give you a nudge, kind of a push. It's just that subtle. And because it's so subtle, many people miss it or they'll blame it on their imagination. Oh, I was just making stuff up in my head. And that's also one thing that loved ones tell us and coworkers tell us. Oh man, I guess you were hitting the bottle pretty hard last night. Oh, you live in Colorado, right? Marijuana is legal. I know why you're getting
Yeah.
voices in your head. They're ready to blow it off. And so we blow it off too.
Yeah.
But the moment you can start to recognize, no, I had some unusual feelings, some unusual thoughts that pop in and I just know these things now. And you recognize that. And you start to learn to listen to that subtle whisper inside. And you'll start to get that more and more. And you realize, oh, I don't need this big revelatory thing. I don't need grandma to go, yes, the money is in the wall over here on the whatever. You just need that, oh, I'm connected. I understand. And the more you do that, the more it builds up and the more you'll start to connect and communicate even more.
Yeah, I agree full-heartedly, and again, it might not be grandma going not it might be you start thinking about her apple pie. I am just craving grandma's apple pie, and then the memory goes into grandma because those memories are those the connection of the chords, right? The emotion is. So that's how they're connecting. I think that's so beautiful.
Exactly. The primary form of communication for every spirit is emotion. And the more you can learn to tap into that emotion, the better it gets. For example, people say, "What? Well, worry about tricksy spirits. Worry about spirits trying to deceive you." Okay, sure. There are jerks in life. There are still spirits that are jerks on the other side, and they'll come over sometimes and they'll be jerks. And they may say one thing, and you're like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting." But pay attention to how it makes you feel. If you get that creepo, weirdo feeling, you get that feeling something just isn't right. Well, something isn't just right. Trust that feeling more than what you're perceiving as worded communication, and vice versa. Guides will come over. You'll feel like this great, immense presence in the room. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and you're looking for a great big answer, but you go, "Whip." You're
Yeah.
like, "What was that?" But that's how they communicate with just a little blip, but that little blip will expand into more information later. So learn to trust that feeling more than the words that you're getting.
Right. All the clairs. Again, the feeling, smell, taste, memory, all of that comes together. I think that's so beautiful. So, okay. So, listen, you're saying that your first rule is just to pay attention, right?
Yes.
Or thought,
Yeah. And it's always quiet and subtle. It's not like the noisy thoughts we have. It's that quiet space in between thoughts where you'll recognize the whispers.
right? Why do you think Oh, or is there a reason? I mean, times are weird now. We know we're not going to get into politics, but we could. But things are weird, and people are coming very much from fear based, unfortunately. So, how do you think that is affecting us, and how this your work could actually help us? No, we don't want to be all doomsday about this, but
No, let's not be all doomsday about this. I agree. And I've been studying, I've been reading, I've been talking to people, and I'm not a big believer in some underground organization controlling the world. The Illuminati, when it originally existed in Bavaria, was just a bunch of science nerds. That's really
yeah,
all they were, exploring the scientific method. That's all it was. But because they were questioning the truth of the Bible, the the church had a much better PR system than science nerds did. So
right.
the church turned the science nerds into these evil, dominating, controlling whatnots. And that's why we have to pay attention to fear because we are easily controlled by fear. I love it. Someplace somebody said that individually people can be very intelligent, but collectively we're really stupid. And once we get a notion of fear and that fear builds into a zeitgeist, we literally lose processing of the prefrontal cortex, which gives us the ability to override emotions, gives us the ability to plan and think ahead and understand the consequences of our action. Our prefrontal cortex is so important for that. But when we are in a fear state, we are in a survival mode, and that prefrontal cortex shuts down, and we listen to any voice of authority that can give us comfort. And we don't recognize if that voice of authority may have actually created the problem in the first place, so that we're now afraid of it. So when we look to the paranormal stuff, when we look to the afterlife, there are these notions of hell. There are these notions of eternal suffering that if you aren't worshiping the right God in the right way, you will spend an eternity of punishment. And there's so many different variations of religion out there now that it's hard to like put your finger on which is the right one. And so these stories of hell, these stories of fire and brimstone and, burning in the fiery lake are actually control mechanisms by the church. I mean, I don't want to go doom and gloom. I agree. They're control mechanisms by the church to get you to shut down your abilities, to get you to shut down your connection to the other side, to just basically be complicit and compliant with their voice of authority. And then what I've seen from spirits have gone to the other side. I'll tell you about Maria here in a moment. The spirits have gone to the other side. They're like, "Oh, there is no hell. There is no punishment. There's no eternal torment." Now, there is still atonement. You still are accountable for crap that you've done, that's still that, but it's not like you're gonna get punished for it. It's not you're gonna be it doesn't make any sense. But what I have seen happen over there on the other side is one time many years ago, my guides brought me over to the spirit world and I saw what looked like a field of people just kind of staring off. They're just like just zoned out. But it was like they were lightly restrained. Like you almost imagine like a rope around their neck tied to a post that's stuck in the ground. But all around them are people just kind of wandering, looking out, watching out for them. So I asked the whisperers, like, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, this is hell. And I'm like, what do you mean this is hell? These are people who believed they were bad,
Mm.
that believed that something happened in their life, that they deserved a life of torment, an afterlife of suffering and torment. And so they've created it for themselves in their own inner world. They are living what they believe that they deserve. But the people walking around, you see them? Those are the watchers. And all they're doing is waiting for someone to have a glint of recognition, a moment where they wake up a little bit and go, do I have to stay here forever? And then they whisper, no, you don't. What else could there be? And then they'll slip back in. And then they'll come back out and go, well, if there's something else out there, how do I find it? Are you ready to find this? They're not going to interfere with free will. If it's a person's free will that they suffer, they'll let them do that. But the moment that they have that recognition, oh, could there be something else? They're like, yeah. Would you like me to show you that? And as soon as they say, yes, I'm there, they'll guide them to another place where they can get out of their own personal hell. So that fear is just a control mechanism shutting us down, cutting us off completely under the thumb of these people, but we don't have to anymore. We can grow beyond that.
That fits in very well with how I see things. Mine in studying philosophy or everything like you do, it's like the ancient Sumerians were kind of, you're going to have the afterlife you believe in, which is exactly what you just said. So whether you're going to create this hell because we are manifestors, seeing what that is. So that's beautifully stated, much better than I know how to do it. And that's just a bad version of what the ancient Sumerians, how they saw things.
And
So
that's what
that is,
Emanuel Swedenborg saw too. He had the same kind of experiences where angels, because he was in a very Christian indoctrinated environment. So to him, his angels took him over to the spirit world. And they were showing him exactly that when you get to the other side, you create your own reality. You create your own experience. And for some people, that's their own personal hell. Sometimes it's the collective hell. They're groups of people that get together and create their own reality. But he said at the same time, you can create your own heavens. And so if that spirit world is a reflection of your consciousness, why not start creating heaven now? Why not do your inner work, get through your own hell now, heal your trauma, integrate your trauma, do your shadow work, get through all of that dark stuff now while you're in the physical world. So when you get to the other side, you don't have to manifest it there at all.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and now you're saying that, like, when we're back to the seance of that, there's a few bad ones, but most people are good.
Mhm.
If you go somewhere, you go to the mall, you go to a movie, you go to a concert. Yes, we're quirky. Yes, we're flawed. Yes, we're all sorts of things, but there's very few serial killers in that crowd. The majority is goodness. So, and that's what I find in the spirit world is that other than what Hollywood and television that we both do, puts out there, but humans, that other weird thing is that we don't wanna hear the good news, we wanna hear the bad news for some weird reason.
That's one of the things I'm looking at is the traits of what it means to be human and what we've inherited from our Paleolithic ancestors. And our Paleolithic ancestors, they were around for tens of thousands of years before we started to develop civilization as we start to know it. And so that means the things that they encountered, the way that their biology was set up, still influence us today because we've had civilization as we know it for 5,000 years, but they've been around almost like 100,000 years before that. And so some of the things that are deeply ingrained within us at the biological level is a fear of the dark, a
Mhm.
fear of the unknown, us versus them. And, that whole fear based, let's listen to authority because it kept our Paleolithic ancestors alive.
Right.
Even
Don't come out of the cave, right. Uh,
exactly, even them encountering fatty, sugary foods. The reason why fatty and sugary foods taste so good to us is because when our Paleolithic ancestors encountered it, it gave them energy. It gave them nutrients that they needed between moments of starvation. So it tasted good to them. So they had more of it. And it's just a lot of times today, I don't think it's a big conspiracy. I just think it's people. I think it's companies that know how to exploit these Paleolithic traits within us for their own benefit, be it fear, be it eating fatty, sugary food, be it us versus them. That's a big one. Like, oh, we got to get them before they get us. I don't think it's a big corporation doing. I think it's individuals that are not maybe working at the best interest for everybody else, exploiting those things. But we can recognize those and rise above them. So we can actually literally rise above what it means to be human by recognizing these Paleolithic traits.
oh, I love that. I love that. So my caveman self liked Hershey bars.
Absolutely.
Uh, and it's really just about fear is the easiest way to control, and we see that going on every day. When I personally switch because fear, as we know, can freeze us in our tracks, make us catatonic, make us not make that phone call, not live the life we want to live, small it in. Or fear is $1 million industry that we're both sort of in. People, you pay money to ride that scary roller coaster and watch ghost adventures, watch scary movies. So why not that same? I'm so scared to do this, but embrace the fear as a challenge. When I flip that, everything in my life versus like, I'm not just going to get scared and I'm going to embrace this fear as a motivator. And it kind of changed everything.
Absolutely. And that's the basis of the shadow work I do. That's why I'm a shadow worker. Is if we try to push the fear away, we try to stamp it down, we get rid of it like, no, I'm strong. I see this with men all the time. That's why I work with men. I'm big, strong, tough. I don't get afraid of anything. That fear will find another way to manifest. It will show up in other ways. But if we can take that moment to go, no, there's something scary here. I'm afraid. Why? What am I feeling that's afraid? And then you can better understand where that fear came from, why it's protecting you, how it's helping you. And then you can have gratitude for it. And then you go, what's on the other side of that fear? Usually it takes just a breath and you can, like you said, turn that fear into excitement. It's like, oh, that would be scary, but no, go do this instead. Now, what I said seems like it's a long process, but when you get used to shadow work and you do it, it's like a matter of I feel the fear. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right. Now let's turn this into something else. But it's not pushing it down. It's recognizing, accepting it, having gratitude, and bringing that light of awareness to it. Like, cool, I'm ready to go because I don't need to be afraid of this thing now.
Yeah. And then, and again, your perception changes reality. And there we go. I love that. All right. Well, people are going to love you now. They're going to. So, where can people find more of you, sir? Give us your website, your social media, what courses or things you might have coming up.
You bet. My website, Kaedrich.com. That's where you can get on my mailing list. I got a free ebook about unlocking your multi-dimensional self. You can also book one-on-one sessions there with me. And there'll be a link to look for those paranormal classes that I offer because I do have everything from developing your paranormal awareness to how to conduct seances. I even teach Black Mirror, and that's my favorite
Mm.
seance tool. And the new course is the Afterlife Codex. And if you're into the runes and the Norse stuff, I do have like runes for shadow work. I do have runes for seance. I do have some of these Nordic based stuff with the paranormal. And for unlocking anything I'm doing, social media wise, anywhere, my name, Kaedrich, Kaedrich, unlocks all of those doors. My name is the key to unlocking that path for you.
I love it because you're a teacher. So you guys like him, follow him, check out his courses at his website. I can't thank you enough. Thank you again for bringing your beautiful magic to the witching hour, Kaedrich. Any last words for everybody before we go?
In a weird sense, like what we are talking about, embrace your fear. Get curious about it. Because the more you can know about where your fear comes from, what it's doing for you, because it thinks it's helping you. It's not trying to destroy you, it's trying to help you. The more you're going to rise above that fear and see what you really are and see why that fear is protecting you. And you're going to learn more about yourself and you're going to overcome any of those control mechanisms just by accepting and being grateful for how that fear has helped you.
Oh, gratitude. I am grateful and grateful that you are here. Thank you, Kaedrich.